Mental Health Warriors, how are we doing out there today? I hope everybody's having a great week and really enjoyed the episodes with, with Drawn, the marathoner and five-time Boston marathoner. And that was really fun. Enjoyed the show with Lee and what she's doing with her nutrition and business. But today we have a very special guest on. It's somebody that I've known for about a year now. I did a speaking event for Ohio and wound up meeting Danei. And she's a great person. You're going to enjoy what she has to say today. But before I get into that, I want to say that, hey, if you'd like to sponsor my podcast, please send an email or message me on Facebook. We'd love to have your sponsor this podcast as we move forward with mental health and helping people how to look at mental health maybe in a different way and knowing that it's okay not to be okay. I'm the mental health warrior, but I can't take credit for that title. Actually, the lady you see on the screen with me is actually the person who came up with it. And I just kind of enjoyed it and loved it and loved the meaning of it. And she's going to go through all that with you guys today and kind of how she came up with all that and kind of what she's been doing. And it's really pretty awesome. She's a pretty awesome lady and she's got a really great story. And then later on, she's going to get into NAMI and what NAMI is and how important that is. I do attend her NAMI meetings, and I think it's a great way for people who want to have that home therapy session or just have a session where you can log in with a group of like-minded people or strangers and talk about your issues and problems that you're having that week. And it's really awesome. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and say, welcome, Mental Health Warriors. Welcome, Danei, to the show. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Well, thank you, Cliff. And I'm so excited to be on your podcast. Because you and I are kindred spirits, and yeah. I'm so proud of you for doing this. It's interesting when I think of myself as a writer, and so and I'll get into this in just a minute. But I think what's really key is this is a movement, and this is about educating, equipping, and empowering people to live a productive life. I think the most important thing is, and this is why I'm so pleased about what you're doing, Cliff, is we are normalizing being a mental health warrior. And, for a decade of my life, I lived with the stigma of I am crazy, dangerous, or violent. Yeah. And, that is not the truth. I mean, if you look here, this is my office, there's my husband and there's my son. And, I'm just a thoroughly Midwestern woman in the heartland of this country that loves this country. And I love our servicemen and women and their families. And I want them to know that, and so, that's why I'm so proud of you for what you're doing. And you are not only a mental health warrior, Cliff, you are a mental health warrior pioneer. And I will talk a little bit about that in just a minute.
Not to cut you off, but I want to jump in real quick. That's something that's important that you brought up that, 10 years ago or even less than that, if you had a mental health condition, people already thought that you were crazy or, something else went on you. And in reality, we're just normal people who has different things go on. I mean, God made us all different, right? And so everything affects everybody differently. And one thing I'm trying to do and one thing that you're doing is trying to normalize that it's okay to have those issues and problems like I talked in the beginning. And as we move forward with this podcast and all the other things that other people are doing that are great and wonderful, I just hope somebody just looks at that and just knows that it's okay and it's absolutely all right to feel that way or have that issue or problem or whatever. Our main goal is just for you to get better and to live the best life that you live. And I'll turn it back over to you, Danei. Sorry.
Amen. I love it. Preach it. Yeah. Well, and, another thing, I did have my own, and I will go into this a little bit. I did have my own dark night of the soul. I have actually been hospitalized 5 times, starting with episode with psychosis, as well as at the ICU, and actually had ECT treatments on my brain, which I won't discuss. But what I think is really important is that I am passionate about helping people so that they avoid the dark night of the soul that I went through. Yeah. So that is really critical. And the other thing I think that it's funny, I'm a mom, and sometimes as a mom, or as maybe it's just human nature, right? We think when it happens to me, oh, it's just me, there's something wrong with me, all those feelings of negative self-talk and all that. But it wasn't until I saw a friend of mine go into mania again, and he had to be hospitalized, that I coined the phrase mental health warrior. And I was like, you know what? We are warriors. We battle with our brains every single day. And trauma. It's interesting, Cliff. I was telling your producer that I just had an article come out today called "We Are All Mental Health Warriors" in the Times Gazette, one of my papers down here in Cincinnati. And so that was that is the truth. We are all mental health warriors. So here's a little bio about me, and this really has to do with the whole idea of busting the stigma. I am a mom. I have a background in marketing. I have a bachelor's degree. And after I had a psychotic break, I actually went back to school again. So here's a little bio about me. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that.
But you know what, to jump in, that's important because you're just a normal person, right? You're a normal mom.
Right.
You had these issues and problems, and look at your achievements and things that you've been able to achieve prior to and then after, your psychosis events. And that's very important, as people watch this podcast, to keep in mind that, you can be at a stoppage right now at this point in your life, right? But you can go on and do, other great things like I have and like Danei has. She's going to talk about it more as she moves on forward with what she has to say. So.
Well, and you're right. An old boss of mine used to say, we shouldn't judge people by their worst day in their life, and that's really true. And so, I have moved on. I mean, it was traumatic. It was a true dark night of the soul. And I'll get into that in just a minute. But what I think everyone needs to understand is that we are all human, and the thing that I think that has really come up since COVID is that everyone is understanding now. Through COVID, everyone has a taste of mental illness. The loneliness, the depression, isolation, right? And so now, interesting for me, like I said, I've been hospitalized 5 times, and I don't want to go through all of those telling you, but in 2019, I was, because of a sodium deficiency, that due to the medications that I was on, I got low sodium. I ended up in the ICU, and they put a salt in my neck because it would have burned my veins. Wow. So it was, pretty life-threatening, really. And it totally whacked my head. They pulled me off all my drugs and, yada, yada, yada. The darkest night of that experience was when my son graduated from high school. I was actually on the psych ward, and my husband is very tech savvy. He actually got me an iPad. And so there I was on the psych ward. Sorry, I'll get a little choked up.
No, it's fine. Perfectly fine.
I was tears streaming down my eyes as I was watching my son stand, because he was salutatorian of his high school class. Oh, wow. Not valedictorian. He was like a point away. Yeah. But salutatorian of his high school class. And so that was really my most recent dark night of the soul. And if it weren't for a lot of faith and you talked about God and support, that could have been the end for me. But I decided to push through it, and I decided to go on. And as I told your producer before, I have lost someone to suicide. And so, that's why we're doing this, is because when you feel like you are all alone and in your dark night of the soul, please know you are not alone.
That's right.
And just because you have suicidal thoughts, just because you have feelings of depression, I go back and speak at the psych ward where I was.
Oh, wow.
And
it's amazing.
I tell people, and one guy said to me, he said, I have these thoughts that I want to end my life. And I said, that's your brain telling you that it's sick. Okay. Yeah. How does the rest of your body tell you that it's in pain? Well, you feel pain, that's it, right? Sorry. How do the rest of the body tell you that it's hurt? You feel pain. Well, the only way your brain can tell you that it is not healthy is when it goes down that rabbit hole of negativity. When you become obsessed with whatever, And
Yeah.
so I said, when you have those thoughts, you need to call your doctor right then and say, look, I'm having suicidal thoughts, and I don't mean to tell you what to do, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That
you got to do something to break the cycle of your way of thinking at that moment.
Amen.
Yeah.
You're totally right about that. So, so what I want your audience to know is that, we all go through dark night of the soul. And that's part of what I talked about in my article today, is that, I was standing with a friend when she lost a loved one, unexpectedly. She's a mental health warrior. A traumatic event, an injury, a long-term illness, a death of a loved one. We were talking a little bit about some of the transitions from going to one unit to another unit, or transition from being in the service to no longer being in the service.
Right.
Or the transition of seeing this country make some decisions that you personally don't agree with, which is part of the reason why I'm on this show today, is that I want, servicemen and women to know that I'm just a thoroughly Midwestern woman, but I support and pray for you guys, and you are important, regardless of who's in office. So that's important. One of the things, there's a couple things you can see. Two things. If you look behind me, you see one of my drawings. But this first slide, the slide that I'm showing, is the beginning. After I went through, the ICU and ECT treatments and all that in 2019, after I was so, thoroughly depressed, I started by drawing. And the reason
Danei, I got a quick question for you. So when you were going through psychosis, I know one of the things we've talked to in the past is you got to the point where you wasn't sleeping. Is that right?
Right.
And that kind of really affected and put you into the hospital. Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I think that's kind of important, if you don't mind, for somebody maybe be having, similar issues or problems, or maybe somebody they know might be having those. If you don't mind sharing that, I'd appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Basically what happened, and well, I won't go back to the other slide. Sorry.
We can look at your art while you talk about it.
Yeah.
It's all good.
But basically what happened is I went 5 nights without sleep. And then I went into psychosis. Now, when I say I went 5 nights without sleep, I mean, I did not sleep. This was not, did I sleep last night? This was 1 o'clock. 1:05, 2 o'clock, 2:05, 3 o'clock, 3:05. My first psychiatrist told me was not allowing an enemy soldier to sleep is a form of torture. Yeah. Okay. And I wish all psychiatrists and everyone knew this message. So thank you very much, Cliff, because this is if you take nothing away from this podcast, but this is it. Okay. When it comes to mental illness, my first psychiatrist said this, it all comes down to sleep.
Yeah.
So as a parent, if your child is in puberty and they're not sleeping, that's important. Okay. Yeah. That is not just puberty. Okay. That is a warning sign of mental illness. Now, for me, literally, if I go 1 night without sleep, I have to call the doctor because, one time I got stung by a bee and they put me on a steroid and I went into mania. So I have a very sensitive system. Yeah. And, my chemistry in my brain has to be just right. And the other thing that some of your viewers might not know is the other thing why this is so important is when you do something like have a suicide attempt, and then you go on the psych ward and then they put you off, they heavily medicate you.
Yeah.
Too much because they don't want you to try again.
Yeah.
But I believe there are positive and constructive ways for you to deal with those feelings of depression. And for me, I did it through art therapy.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, one thing I do on my show is I ask veterans to sing in music that they've written themselves as their way as therapy for them to get through what they've been in. And we've actually had several veterans do that. And even the last episode, the podcast with Ron Dawson, one of my friends' wife who has issues actually sang that song, and she has an absolutely amazing, beautiful voice. And I didn't even know it was her. And I've known this guy for 30 years. They've been married for almost 20. I had no idea it was her singing. And I was like, Todd, who is this person singing? He's like, Cliff, that's my wife. I'm like, what? Man, I couldn't believe it. But she finds therapy through that. And she called and texted me that night and was so thankful that I played her song. It just made her feel really good about herself. And so as you go through your art therapy, I want everybody to keep that in mind, is that, these different therapy techniques out there can work for anybody. And you just got to find something to change your way of thinking. And so this is Danei, who was out of the hospital, coming out of the hospital. Now she's going through her therapy and whatever she needed to do. And that was through art. And she's got some amazing pictures she's going to show us today. And then we're going to show some more at the end. And so go ahead and continue, Danei. So I just wanted to say that.
Well, thank you, Cliff. Well, and what I want people to understand is I'm showing these pictures. They're not perfect, okay?
They don't have to be.
The first one I call recovery. That was a scribble drawing, and then I went into rebuilding and then rebirth. And then what actually happened was, after, what really helped me was I got enrolled in an art class when this is right before COVID hit.
Can you go back to the other slide? I want to say something real quick.
Sure.
So one thing I noticed when you put this up and you were talking about the stages you were going through, one thing I noticed is that your colors of your drawing got more vibrant.
Right.
And so you can see that as you were going through your recovery, that you were improving, and your mind and what you were thinking about was changing. And I saw that very quickly as you were going through that. And that's pretty amazing to see something that subtle, but I noticed it that you can see that you're just getting a little bit brighter and brighter and brighter with each one of your drawings. You go to the next slide now.
Well, and what I want, and that's why I want people to understand, you don't have to be a Michelangelo or a Leonardo da Vinci. It doesn't matter. It's just start. This was so much more therapeutic for me than having ECT treatments. Okay. Yeah. I will just tell you, this was so much more therapeutic and cathartic for me.
Sure.
And so what ended up happening is I enrolled in a drawing class right before COVID hit. And what happened, and you'll see this at the end of the podcast, is my 50 days of drawing video, is so our teacher was like, okay, guy. And, when I first went into that class, I could hardly speak to any of those students. Here I am, this old woman, coming again to an art class at a community college and feeling like shit, and so fragile,
Yeah.
And I almost quit the class, but it was the art teacher that actually helped me say, no, you're doing well, keep going. And I remember the first time they critiqued one of my drawings, I was like, they used the word critique, but they were all so positive and affirming. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't think it was all that good, And so this is actually a part of the 50 days of drawing. And this one I'm particularly proud of because this one has so many different meanings. One of the people from Nami Brown County said, Danei, your apple slices remind me of myself. After my psychotic break, I felt like I was divided up into all these pieces, and so that is a part of the metaphor. And then for me, it's, I actually ate this apple and I took the pictures and I was trying really hard. The apple slices got brown so quick.
Yeah.
So it's actually hard, to get it. But this is probably one of my most proud pictures, and you can tell it's what I use for my virtual background as well. But part of the reason is I want people to understand that, you are a creative being, and it may not be art. It may be music. It may be puzzles. It may be crossword puzzles. It may be words. It may be
taking pictures.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. And it doesn't, and what doesn't matter is just give yourself permission to pursue that.
Yes.
Whatever your creative passion is, pursue that. Yeah. And I do columns, and one of the therapists talks about this idea of mood congruence. And so, yes, you are going to feel bad at times, and that's okay for a period of time. It's okay to watch a sad movie. for
Sure.
2 hours. Now, I'm not saying it's okay to be in bed for 5 days straight. That's not
Right.
what I'm saying. But it is allowing yourself to have that emotional release
Yes.
is so important. My husband.
I think for men, that's a hard thing to do, right? To have that
Yes.
emotional release. I know it was tough for me. And that was a hard thing for me to go, especially when I started doing speaking events, I would try to hide my emotions. And, as I tell my story, and you've heard me tell my story, I laugh, I cry, and I just speak from my heart now, and not to leave those things bottled up. For a man, I'm telling you, all the men out there, it feels so much better when you can do it. And I'm not talking about, crying in a corner and curled up in a ball, or if that's what you want to do, great, that's fine. But I'm just saying is just allowing yourself to release that, and however you release it as a person, and to know it's okay to do that.
Right. And, one of the things that I've realized that it really helps my husband is rock music,
Yeah.
and he will in the evening. Yeah, we'll be together on the couch, and I'll have my knitting, and he'll have the rock music playing. And for him, there is so much emotional connection, to that nostalgic period that allows him to take the, because he has a stressful job working for a startup. And that gotta deliver mentality.
Yeah.
But that allows him some downtime, and then to kind of resonate with a part of himself that he, his youth, which is a good thing. And so, and so music, art, drawing, I'm a writer. Journaling is so important to me.
Yeah.
Journaling, using my hands, as you can tell.
Yeah.
If I'm not doing something, that's why I have to use my PowerPoint template, is because I'm a marketer.
Yeah.
So
well,
anyway.
I have to exercise. My outlet is exercising, and right. People, I don't brag about it. When I post my run times on Instagram or Facebook, I never put my time, because the time doesn't matter to me. I set a goal for a distance. So whether it's 2 miles, 4 miles, 6, whatever it is, that's my goal for the day. And if it takes me 30 minutes to run 3 miles, great. If it takes me 50 minutes to run 3 miles, great. It doesn't matter. My goal was just to go that distance and back. And that's why I never post times, because to me, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
Right. I would agree. And then the next thing that I, me, I can't get by without talking about NAMI, because it took me 7 years to find the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And that was a really dark time for me. I had my own suicide attempt before I found NAMI. And I truly believe if I would have known about NAMI before, I don't believe I would have attempted my own life, because then I would have understood that I was not alone. And I would have understand that, the brain is one of the most marvelous organs in the universe. I had a medical doctor tell me.
Yeah,
the brain is, and so it's also the most fragile. And so we need to give ourselves permission, and one of the proudest achievements of my life is founding NAMI Brown County. And this July, we are going to celebrate 5 years. And so that's something that's really important to me. One of the ironies that happened to me after being hospitalized in 2019 was in February of 2020, I actually won the Ohio News Media Hooper Award for my mental health column.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
And so that was, here I was feeling like shit, and, no self-confidence at all. And here I won this award,
How amazing.
And, but I don't, like you, Cliff, I'm not saying this to, pat my own ego, but what I want people to understand is that, you have unique skills, talents, and abilities. And if you push through those dark night of the soul times, you will find your passion and your catharsis, and what writing is to me.
Absolutely. I did an episode where I talked about hunt the good stuff, right? You always find 3 good things that happened to you that day. No matter how bad your day was, there's 3 good things. And you were saying you were having a bad day, whatever. And then you find out you got this award that you wasn't expecting, and how something as simple as that could change your mindset and what you were thinking. That's your hard work, your achievement. Other people noticed in your writing. I know you wrote a wonderful article on me after I did the speaking event there for recovery. And, it speaks volumes to not only you as a person, but your passion that you have for writing.
Thank you.
Mhm.
One of the things, I think this is where we should, at the end, perhaps put in my email address
Sure. Yeah.
as a contact for NAMI Brown County.
Yeah.
We have the NAMI Brown County Zooms are international, so people from wherever can join. They are
Yeah.
the second and fourth Thursday of the month
Mhm.
at 7 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yep.
Um,
And Mental Health Warriors, I am part of that group. So if you do sign into it, you will see me when I can. Sometimes I'm just too busy to do it, but I do try to make an attempt at least once a month or twice a month if I can to make that session. I thoroughly enjoyed. I thoroughly in talking to the people on there about their issues and problems and just kind of what NAMI really stands for and what they do. And it's free of charge. There's no charge for it. It's free, other than getting on your computer and on the internet or your phone and signing in. And even if you don't have a camera, you can go in voice and just listen still. There's some people that join by voice only. They don't have their camera on or they don't have a camera, and that's perfectly fine too. So go ahead and continue. But as you go through and talk about NAMI and things like that, I just want people to understand that NAMI's in all the states and territories. And so if
yeah.
you don't want to join Brown County, Ohio, which you can, absolutely, and I encourage you to do so because Danei's sessions are great. There's one in your local community that you can join also.
Yeah, NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, is the nation's largest grassroots organization for people with a mental illness or their caregiver or their loved one, and it was founded in the 1970s by two mothers of schizophrenics, sorry. And it is in all 50 states, as Cliff said. In Ohio, there are like 40 affiliates. For 88 counties, but their NAMI.org is the URL, for the national NAMI, and they do have a registry, so you could go search by state, and then you could go down by county and see if you're NAMI affiliate. So as Cliff said, there is more than just NAMI Brown County, a lot actually. Yeah. And what's really wonderful about NAMI is because when those two mothers founded NAMI in the 1970s, they were told that the reason their children had mental illness was because of bad parenting. So it was really about mental illness stigma, even back then.
Oh yeah.
But just think of how far we've come today. I think a lot about those two mothers who were passionate about their children. Yeah. And they didn't take no for an answer. And Cliff, you didn't take no for an answer either. And that's why I call you a mental health pioneer, because you are more than just a mental health warrior. You are a mental health pioneer. Even when the military wanted to silence you, you spoke out because you knew it was the right thing to do to save lives. And so I want to applaud you and commend you for that on the Mental Health Warrior podcast. Well,
thank you for that. It's it was something near and dear to me, and my 34-year military career, that's the only thing I did wrong was not shut up and quit talking about it. But I believe when God closes one door, he opens another one. So tomorrow's another day, and just keep moving forward because that's all I know how to do.
Well, and this is why I wanted to bring this up and put in this slide. One of the people that helped me when I first, I got involved with NAMI Southwest Ohio first in Cincinnati. And I went through the classes. They have a number of wonderful classes. They have a family to family group, which is for caregivers. And then there's a peer-to-peer group. And these are 8-week classes that teach you all about mental health. So these are wonderful classes. There's one called NAMI Homefront for military personnel, and there's one called On Demand, which is for people under the age of 18.
Okay.
So we were actually, and I became a presenter for NAMI Southwest Ohio, and we had a meeting of presenters. And I want to tell you a little bit about my friend Charles. And Charles and I presented together, and he said to me, Danei, you have a gift for presenting. And I said, I thought to myself, what a humble man. Here he is. Usually people want to talk about themselves, but here he is giving me a compliment, so
Right.
Charles was very special to me. Well, I had not taken what Charles and another woman and I decided that out here, about 20 miles east of Cincinnati, there was no NAMI. That's why it took me 7 years to find NAMI. There was no NAMI out here. So we decided that we were going to see if we could start a NAMI affiliate out in these counties.
Mm-hmm.
And Charles was a part of that. And I was taking a NAMI peer-to-peer class. And this is another hard story, but I know that's okay.
That's why we're here.
Charles was actually teaching the class. He was the teacher of the class, and he was going through a medication transition, and he felt like he was climbing the walls. And I said to Charles, Charles, go to the emergency room. And I thought that's what you need to do. What Charles said to me was, in his still small, still quiet voice, he said, there are people depending on me.
Yeah.
The next week when I showed up for class, there was no class because Charles died by suicide. I will never forget that. I had my own meds transition and ended up in the hospital again. And I wrote a poem called I Am a Life Preserver because of that. And I know this is part of the reason why that Cliff and his producer are creating this podcast is we want to save lives, and so I made a promise to Charles's memory, that I would mention him so that people would understand that they are not alone.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the whole Veteran Trash Talk, family is to give veterans out there just a voice to go out and talk. And of course, my show is more broad than that, as we talk about any mental health issues, whether you've been in the service or not. But it really, allows people to have that space and that time to know that they're not alone. You are different and unique in yourself, but you're not different and unique thinking that you're the only one with this issue and problem, that there's other people out there that's gone through the same issues and problems and have gone on to have a successful life and career and whatever they chose to do. And so it's just important for people to remember that we're all in this together. This is why I do that, and everybody else does what they do, and Danei does what she does. And just never think that you're always alone, because I guarantee you, even if you don't think you're important, and I say this a lot, you're important to somebody and they love you and they want you here tomorrow, whether that's a friend, family member, distant relative, or whoever. So.
Well, and one of the reasons why I wanted to come on your podcast is, to be honest.
Because I begged you.
Well, but
no, I'm just joking.
What you showed me, Cliff, was I was like, another difficult topic, Afghanistan. I am not pleased. I was not pleased, and I was horrified when I could come outside myself and see how the hearts and mind battle that the U.S. military. That's how we treat people when we are in country, as I understand it. That was not, the government was not consistent, and it broke my heart. And I said, Cliff, how can I help? I want our servicemen and women and their families to know that as a thoroughly Midwestern woman, I care about you. And regardless of what this country's government is doing, I value the sacrifices and service of what you are doing. And what Cliff, you said to me was, Danei, you can share about your mental health journey. And so I would love to come on this podcast on a frequent basis.
Sure.
And because I see this as my focus group, my background in marketing, about how can I help? Yep. I was telling your producer before, I do a little knitting, would they like a knitted hat? I mean,
right.
I'm not a great cookie maker, but maybe we can work that out, with some other people.
Well, no, that's really great. And I know a lot of people out there in the military, during the Afghanistan debacle, and I'm not going to get into that because my show's not political. But a lot of soldiers who give their life, or had friends give their life, or who fought many battles over there, who have injuries and scars from that, they were very hurt by that. And I took many phone calls. Danei, you cared enough to call me on the phone shortly after that broke, and we talked for a long time. And I had a lot of my veteran friends call me, and I did a lot of speaking events for corporations that had veterans groups because their workers were hurting because of that. And they noticed that. And kudos to those companies who cared enough for their employees to have me come in and speak and tell my story of help and kind of, have that conversation with them about Afghanistan and knowing it's okay to have those feelings of hurt and being upset. Just to have the government throw their hands up in the air and say we're done and go on. So.
Well, and I think that's a part of, I know this from a friend who's in the police force. A lot of times the police officers don't understand that, and NAMI has a program called where we go speak at crisis intervention teams training about mental health and tell our stories. And what I always say to those police officers is, thank you for putting your life on the line for mine every day. And that's the same message that I want our military personnel to understand. Yeah. That I'm just a thoroughly Midwestern woman, but I am thanking you for your service. And I want to know how I can help you. And through mental health is a way that I can give back. Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to talk a little bit about is the Mental Health Warrior Creed. Because I created this Mental Health Warrior Creed modeled after the Soldier's Creed. And, it's all I statements, and I'm not going to go through all of it today. You talked a little bit about God, Cliff, and that is important to me. Part of what I think has been going on in our culture is for the last 500 years, our culture has kind of been obsessing over ourselves, like we're hot shit,
Mm-hmm.
Well, but everybody knows that the brain is probably the most marvelous organ in the universe, according to a doctor who told me that. And so we all intuitively know that we didn't design this world, yes, miraculous technological advancements, without a doubt, we have come a long way.
Yeah.
But yet there's a part of us within ourselves that says, wait a minute, and some people believe in a God and some people do not. But what helped me realize when that dark night of the soul, again, when I've been hospitalized again and feeling like shit, was, wait a minute, what about God? Does he love me and does he care about me? And I really had to say, you know what? This culture tells me I'm not enough. This culture says I'm shit because I have a mental illness. Now it's a little softer these days, but it's still there.
You're less than.
You're less than, too. Right. Yeah. So I had to go back to my own spiritual heritage and look into the Bible and look at, wait a minute. The Bible says I am God's creation. Mm-hmm. Now, if you go back to that picture behind me, besides my husband and my son, what do I love the most in life? My own creations, mm-hmm. my own artistic creations. And I feel connected with God when I am drawing. So, there is an alternate worldview that I want everyone to know. And that's why I modeled it after the whole Mental Health Warrior Creed. I don't know if you want me to read them all, but
no, well, people can pause it when they're watching the podcast and go through it. But I do want to point out a couple of important ones here that I think are all important. But number 7 is very important. I don't have to be perfect to be loved. I think a lot of people nowadays think they have to have the perfect body or the perfect picture on TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, and just know that we all aren't perfect. And all cameras have filters, and you just need to take the filter off of life every now and then and accept it, right? And then really, number 9 and 10, is very important. I will write and speak about my lived experience to bust mental health stigma. That's why I do what I do. Danei, that's why you do what you do. And I think that's very important. But I will caveat to that is, talking about your lived experience is great and wonderful, but also can be very stressful to the person doing it. And so before you make that step to go out and do that and speak about those things that were not the best things in your life, just make sure that you're right mentally and that you can handle that to relive that over and over. And I will be honest with my audience is that, if I do too many speaking events in a row, it mentally wears me out and I have to take a break. And there was a time in my life where I was just so focused on helping others, I forgot to take care of myself. And then I started to suffer from it. And so it's very important to know what your limits are, whether you're exercising or you're writing or whatever you're doing, telling your lived experience. Just know what your limits are and what you're comfortable with and with not talking about. And number 10 is very important, to just choose life. I mean, I know what it's like. Danei, you know what it's like. Kevin, the producer, he knows what it's like not want to live, to be in those dark places. We've all been there. And I will tell you, I hated the sunrise as much as I hated the moonrise. And I talked about that a couple podcasts ago. And so I understand it. You understand it. Kevin understands it. And so, we just have to learn how to choose life. And we say that easily, but we know that path's not easy, right? We know that because we walk that path. And so what we're trying to do is help people that when they do walk down that path, not to hit as many potholes as we hit as we went down that. So we're trying to smooth the road out for you so that you can get to the point where you can choose life.
And it is a daily choice. Choosing life is a daily choice. One of the things that was wonderful for me, Cliff, that I don't know, you didn't, I don't think you had the opportunity to participate in, is NAMI has a program called In Our Own Voice. And that's where I learned to tell my story. Yeah. And it's, you learn it's okay to get, I got a little teared up. I call it misty. I got a little misty, talking about Charles and my son's graduation.
Sure.
That's okay, yeah. And the most important thing to know is that you, like I said, you are not alone, and you have community of support through here, through NAMI Brown County, through the Trash Talk Network, et cetera. Mm-hmm. A lot of times what they tell people who are feeling suicidal is that if you can procrastinate, for a day, and then that way you just keep putting it off. I have mm-hmm. some friends who have to deal with, suicidal thoughts a lot. And, but if you can find creative outlets, mm-hmm. That's how I really, found my voice, if you will. Yeah. And I want to encourage everyone to do that. And it's also through my creative outlets that I got connected with the God of the universe.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's all I had to cover.
Oh, that was it. Well, that was really great, Danei, and I appreciate it. You've done a lot of great things there in your community writing. And one thing I want to do and we'll show is please share a link to your newspaper articles that you write. They're very moving, and I think a lot of people will enjoy going out and reading them. Wrapping up, I want to say, Danei, I appreciate you coming on. I know we're going to have you on again in the future. And for all my mental health warriors out there that are watching, please log on and follow Danei, her writings that she does. So they're really great. And if you want to join NAMI, we'll have her email address up. Just shoot her an email. She'll add you to the Zoom call, and you can sit there with your camera on or off, your choice. But you just know that you will see me on there, and I will talk about things because I think it's important. And for me, it's just a nice little stress relief for the week, just to get on there. And sometimes we don't really talk about the real heavy
sometimes we
stuff. It's just a conversation. Yeah, people say, well, last week, I'm not going to say her name, but she said she was having car troubles, and then her car got fixed, and so she was having a better day. And she talked about that, and it was funny because a buddy of mine, I just got off the phone with him because he was having car trouble. So I guess last week was a car trouble week. I guess I don't know, but it's kind of great and nice. If you'd like to sponsor my podcast, please shoot me an email or hit me up on Messenger. We'd love to have you as a sponsor. And as we sign off here, Danei, thanks again. And everybody take care, and you have a great mental health week, everybody.